This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show. This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show.
YouTube, what is up? I'm your homeboy Josh, back at you, and today we're taking a look at the Herakles Plus by Sense. This is a new subohm tank sent on over free for the purposes of this review by EVCigarettes.com. It's a pretty interesting design, pretty intricate as far as sub tanks go, but I don't want to spoil it. So come on in here, let's take a look at this thing. This thing is beautifully packaged, let me tell you. It's got this sort of like matte sleeve on it, and that's all you see at first, just this beautiful matte sleeve. And when you take that on off, you've got your tank right here. It is a little bit hard to get off. It is stiff. It's a little bit stiff on this plastic sheath that they have going on here. Well, that's a little dirty. Inside the package, of course, you've got your sub tank, you've got a spare glass, you've got a spare coil head as well, and a coil head pre-installed. The pre-installed coil head is a 0.4 ohm Casaa head. The spare is a 0.2 ohm 316L stainless steel head. And you can also buy 0.2 ohm Ni200 heads for this tank as well. The Herakles Plus sub tank breaks down into a total of 7 pieces. That's a lot of pieces for a sub tank. 7 pieces, including the drip tip. The coils for the Herakles Plus are actually wrapped in parallel. These are tri-coils. So there are 3 strands of wire, whether that's stainless steel or Casaa or nickel, wrapped in parallel. So they're triple coils in a vertical configuration here. And they have a wide range. Basically, that Casaa coil that's pre-installed, that 0.4 ohm Casaa coil, is rated to go anywhere from 35 watts to 100 watts. Interestingly, the 0.2 ohm 316L stainless steel coil is rated to go from 35 watts to 80 watts though, so a little bit lower. There's a little bit of spit back control, this bit of netting to the top of the coil, and plenty of airflow on these coils. There's almost nothing here in terms of restriction on the airflow on these coils, almost at all. I mean, it's just this one bar to make the contact at the bottom of the base. That's it. Just this one bar making the contact at the base. And the juice flow holes in the coil are ample. The wicking on it is very, very good. I'll be honest, I've had some issues with the juice flow control. Really my own doing, just not realizing that I've accidentally closed it or something. I just do that. But I'll notice that, you know, the flavor will drop off, and then I look at the tank and I realize the juice flow control is closed before I get a dry hit. So I'll be vaping, I'll realize that the flavor drop off, I look at the tank, I see that the juice flow control is closed, I fix that, and then it's like, all better. But I never get a dry hit out of it, just because those wicking holes, and it's ample enough wicking and ample enough wicking holes that, you know, I can accidentally close the juice flow control for a little while and not suffer any consequences from it. It's pretty good. We're gonna put this tank back together, starting with the chimney. I like that the chimney has the branding here, but the branding is subtle on the chimney, and that's about it. It says Herakles at the bottom. Chimney is pretty cool. I mean, looking at the chimney, it looks completely closed off when you look at it like this. And looking at it, I couldn't figure out how that juice flow control worked. It's actually really intricate design. On the bottom, you see there it has this sort of section where it's able to turn like this, and I can't even begin to fathom, honestly. But it assembles just like this. The tank goes on down on top of the chimney, and it has that, you know, directional symbol for the juice flow control here, so you know how to turn the tank to open it on up, because you kind of turn it from the tank. The 2 portions screw together, the top portion, the bottom portion, securing the glass in place. Haven't had any leaking, haven't had any issues with worrying that this would come apart on me. It's all very secure. It's a very well put together tank. The top section of the tank does break down into 2 pieces. One piece houses the fill port as well, where you actually fill it, it being a top fill tank. Now the other section houses the auxiliary airflow. And the auxiliary airflow on this Herakles Plus is actually quite good. You know, my first thought looking at it was that this is going to be just like any other tank that comes with a drip tip that has adjustable airflow, it's just going to kill the flavor. It's just going to actually cool down the vape. So I wasn't too excited about it. I was actually kind of concerned about what it was going to do. But then as I was fiddling with it, taking it apart, looking at all these parts and pieces, I realized that that's not what this piece is doing at all. I want to take a moment and talk about this auxiliary airflow because I love the way that it works. It does not work like the airflow control on a drip tip, for instance. It doesn't just come in the side and then up to your mouth, cooling the vape and killing the flavor. No, it works very, very differently from that. In fact, it works much the opposite. Airflow is going to come in through the intake on the top section here, the auxiliary airflow section. It's going to travel through this short chamber so it comes out right underneath the drip tip. But it's actually not traveling to the drip tip at all because there's this second section here, the section that houses the fill port. The section that houses the fill port also has an air intake. And it travels into the air intake on the fill port section, not through the fill port, of course, but in the section that houses the fill port, down through that air intake, and it comes out alongside this sort of sub chimney that actually fits inside the actual chimney. So the airflow is traveling between these two pipes that act as the chimney. The chimney within the chimney and the spaces between those two pipes, air is traveling downward toward the coil from there. So unlike a drip tip with airflow control, where the air is coming in through the air intake and straight up to your lips, cooling the vape and killing the flavor while never actually coming in contact with the coil, this on the Herakles Plus is doing much the opposite. I think that auxiliary airflow is what contributes to the overall boost I get in flavor from this particular sub-tank. From there, all we gotta do is screw our base into our tank section, screw it down in our mod, and fill her on up. I will say that I wish that the fill holes were just a tad bit larger. They are a little bit tiny. A little bit of juice will collect in the top, but I like that on the top they have like this sort of fill well, I guess. There's like a little bit of a well to it. So the fill holes are not large enough to house a dripper bottle per se, but the well is large enough that if I make a little bit of a mess around the top while I'm filling it, then the juice will drain down into those fill holes, and I really don't even need a paper towel when I'm filling this. From there, we'll just screw on our top section with the auxiliary airflow, pop in our drip tip, and from there, we're set to go. I'll see you guys topside, we'll vape on it a bit, we'll talk about it. So YouTube, that was the Herakles Plus by Sense. It's a pretty interesting sub-tank, especially when it comes to the airflow. The way it works with this dual airflow control where you have one on the top piece here and one on the bottom here. And it's not just coming straight through the auxiliary airflow to your lips, killing off the vape and everything good about it, but you know, it's actually coming through those air holes down to the coil, and it's got air coming from the bottom up at the coil as well. So you've got top airflow as well as bottom airflow. And I gotta tell you, it's got some really excellent flavor. Excellent flavor. And you can actually just close off the bottom completely and just use the top airflow if you want to. Right now I've got it, if you do that, you want to turn it down quite a bit. I'll turn it down to say, I don't know, about 70 watts. And when you do that, it's a really restrictive, flavorful draw. Now, you open up the bottom airflow, and you have the top airflow fully opened as well, And you can turn it right on up to about 100 watts, I would say. 100 watts is basically the sweet spot when you've got everything wide open. And it's still a delicious vape. Delicious, but also incredibly cloudy. I have to say I've been nothing but impressed with the flavor on this sub-tank. I've got my own drip tip on here. It will take your own drip tip, which is nice. It's not proprietary in the connection at all. You can use your own. This is a just the tip drip tip. And it works fantastic. I've had no complaints with this tank so far. I haven't had a dry hit. Even if I accidentally, because when you fill it, you want to basically, turn the tank like this so it closes off the juice flow. And then when you're done filling it, you open it back up again. And sometimes I'll fuck up and I will accidentally, forget that and, close it off while I'm vaping it by mistake. And I'll notice that there's a drop off in the flavor, but I still don't get a dry hit because the coils, they wick really, really well. For a triple vertical coil to wick that well, I gotta tell you, this tank is very, very well engineered. I'm nothing but impressed with the Herakles Plus by Sense. It's a very, very good tank. Let's go check out the EVCigarettes site, shall we? They've got a great site here at EVCigarettes. They've got pretty much everything you could ever need. They've got juice, mods, tanks, atomizers, starter kits, pretty much everything you could ever want in an online shop. Absolutely. It's a virtual store that has pretty much everything. So let's go find the Herakles Plus. Here we are. Wow, it's only $34.99. I'm actually pretty impressed. I thought it was more. Yeah, it is $34.99 at EVCigarettes.com. And it's a great little bit of kit, I have to say. If you're in the market for a new sub-tank, it's a good one. It's a very good one. Particularly just for the flavor of it. The flavor is fantastic. The clouds are really good, but the flavor is phenomenal. And the airflow options are wonderful too. Some of my favorite RDAs are RDAs that have top airflow and bottom airflow, and you can mix and match them. This one, I mean, if in terms of a sub-tank, it's very, very good. Does it compete with an RDA in my book? No, but what does? This isn't, as far as sub-tanks goes, it's top-notch though. Top-notch. I've been using it pretty much daily, and I have to tell you, I really like this one. Really like this one. It's a winner. Anyway, guys, that's the Herakles Plus by Sense from EVCigarettes.com. Until next time, please remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Remember to check out Project Fog. I'm the new host on Project Fog now. And until then, vape on, vapors.